What is up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Uberkooledgarage. On this week's episode, we're going to hop right back into Ryan's car. We have a huge box of parts to install, start getting everything situated, everything painted up. Car's coming along a lot, quite a bit of progress here in this video. Also have some progress that is after this video, but a lot has been going on with his car. We are taking a break from the bug for a little bit. I got some stuff to situate on it, things to kind of recalculate and figure out. But the bug does work. Tuned it quite a bit. So all of this stuff is coming along good in this car. We'll do a first drive video here shortly. If you guys have any suggestions on videos, anything that I can do to make them better, or just any tips or suggestions would definitely help. I want to try and make these videos as good as I can for you guys. I know the bug stuff is taking forever to get it to where it needs to be, but that's basically how it goes building a complete custom car. These things definitely take time. You don't think it's going to take as long as it does, but the car is getting very close to where it needs to be, to where you guys will probably enjoy the content a lot more. We'll be driving it here shortly. I still need to re-register it, get the tags, do some wiring to make it street legal, but it's getting there, guys, promise. Ryan's car, on the other hand, will be coming up pretty quick. Basically have everything minus a tiny few little parts here and there, but we'll get that thing situated. So let's hop into this video, get Ryan's car as far as we can this video, and then we'll keep building on both of the cars. So hope you guys enjoy. Well, I talked Ryan into letting me paint a bunch of stuff while I'm in here. So you can see we went ahead and painted the front cover wrinkle black. It's still drying up, so it's not 100% even yet, but it looks way better than just plain aluminum. And it'll keep it from getting that nasty corrosion on it. So that looks really good. I am going to repaint the crank pulley and the dipstick tube that sticks out of there. We'll clean up a lot of the block. You can see how dirty it is. I'll clean up all of that. I got a little tiny bit of overspray along here, which is completely fine because when I clean the block, I'll get rid of all that stuff. We also talked about painting the intake manifold. The color that he chose for that should look really good with this. I might end up pulling off some of the fuel lines, either that or I'll tape them off and maybe respray them black, just because they are very old, worn out. They got some corrosion, or not corrosion, it's just like calcium buildup on them. So I'll clean all those up. I'll clean up the hoses. Good thing to use for cleaning up hoses that nobody ever really talks about. If you get orange glow and a rag, like the orange glow hand scrub to clean oil, if you put some of that onto a rag and actually wipe it on the rubber hose, it actually makes the hose look brand new. So I'll end up doing that with a lot of the hoses. Some of the hoses have to be replaced, like this one here was so brittle that it just fell off. It's actually sitting right here. But so old that the hose actually just fell off. So you can see that it broke. So there's a couple things on here that I'm going to have to replace. I know there's one over here. Maybe a couple of these ones. But this is going to take about a day to dry. So I'll go ahead and let this dry up a little bit, probably overnight, and then we will move over to the intake manifold, get the block cleaned, and then we'll pull the motor, finish the transmission. We also talked about painting the entire bay. That's actually just going to be bed lined, so we're going to bed liner the entire engine bay. I will probably pull the hinges and paint those black. That way it all kind of matches, and we'll paint the transmission and the entire underside of the trans tunnel area. Get all that painted up, and then we'll final bolt everything in. I'll probably run fuel lines while all that stuff's out, and just make it nice and easy. So we will let this dry overnight, and then we'll get to cleaning and painting everything else. You can see that I have been getting busy tearing a bunch of stuff out of Ryan's car. The engine bay is starting to look a whole lot better. Still a couple things I'm going to shave in here. I have to patch up some holes, so this one's a rust spot. I'll probably end up cutting this section here, get rid of this flap. Otherwise, it might be impossible to get the spark plugs out if he ever wants to change them. Same thing on this side. I'll cut this back. I'm going to get rid of this bracket here and clean up a couple things. I do have to open this up just a hair bit more, which isn't too big a deal. Like Zach's car, I will make a panel that covers all of this entire section here on the inside, make it removable just in case you have to change the starter or anything like that. So once I get this stuff cleaned up, I'm going to pull off all of the rear suspension. Apparently there is fuel in the tank. The line snapped off and it started spewing really old, dirty smelling fuel. So I'm going to have to drain the tank. I have to pull the brake line, the soft lines off because somebody cut them. Really not too big a deal. But I'm going to clean all this stuff up. I will paint the chassis section part black, and then we will bed line everything else in here. I still have to make a plate for this hole here. I actually have to grind down the actual frame horn lip right here back in the corners for the transmission. So I had to pull the trans out anyway to finish that up, but while that's out, I will notch those out, get those clearanced. And after that, I think the entire engine and transmission will slide in here no problem at all. With the Subaru gears transmission mount and engine mount, they're kind of a pain in the butt. But they bolt under each control arm, so I have to drill those holes out bigger and mount that plate up underneath, but I can't do that with the suspension in there. There's just no room. So pull the suspension out, paint all this stuff, get that stuff drilled, start running fuel lines, finish up the transmission, get the trans painted and the engine bay painted, and then everything should go back in and really start coming together. So probably by this weekend, I'm hoping to have the engine, transmission, and everything all painted, ready to go. And then we can start hopping into the rest of the fuel system, radiator system, and start digging into some wiring. I did talk to him. I think we're going to rewire some of the car to get that ready. Got the intake manifold painted. I wasn't 100% sure on the color, but now that I'm seeing it, it looks really good. I did get a little bit of overspray on a couple things. These pipes, I'm going to, like I said earlier, I'm going to paint all those black. So after this stuff dries up, I'll slide a sheet underneath all of it, paint all the pipes black. That way they are nice and clean. I got a little bit of overspray, like down here on the injector a little bit, but a little bit of acetone. We'll clean that up. Plus, I was going to clean the block more anyway. But this color actually looks really cool. It's not too over-the-top blue. I was worried it was going to be like super blue. But it's almost the same color as the aluminum, just like with a slight blue metallic in it. So it actually looks really good. And then off camera, I also went ahead and painted up the pulley and the dipstick tube. So those are black. The wrinkle paint came out awesome. It looks really good. So now I just got to clean up the block. Clean up some of the overspray, and the motor side of this painting stuff should be done. I have a couple things to fix on the interior section of the firewall and stuff, and then we'll paint all of that. I got to blow apart the suspension to get the motor mounts in there, but the engine's actually looking pretty darn good. So a little bit more cleaning and the engine will be ready. Transmission will come up here pretty quick. Well, went ahead and painted all those lines up. Got them all painted black. I still think I should probably paint a little bit further back there, but everything on this thing looks really good. I need to stop somewhere and grab some acetone or brake clean. I got a little bit of overspray on the sensors and that injector, like I said. But other than that, everything looks really good. I'll go through, clean up the block a little bit. I'm not 100% sure on what I'm going to do with the outside fuel rails, just because they're super dirty. I might just brake clean, wipe them down, get all of that stuff cleaned up. But you can see all the suspension parts here. It's pretty cool because he's got Porsche control arms. So Porsche control arms, Porsche spring plates. So these are all pretty cool. It looks like he has some new urethane bushings. So everything under the car is out. Going to wire brush basically all of this bottom section of the chassis. I'll paint all of that black, and then, well, I'll clean up all of back here. and then paint this black, bed line all of this section here. This looks a lot better. Everything underneath, chassis-wise, is painted. Went ahead and undercoated the entire underside as well. So everything down here looks a lot better. I'll end up probably doing one more coat on the top side. Just that way I know that everything got coated. But chassis stuff is basically done. Even went ahead and sprayed all of this. So now that all of this is done, I also went ahead and drilled out the trans mounts on both sides. So I have to notch this little ear on the frame horn on both sides. That way the transmission has clearance. So I'm going to grind that back. And then I'll respray that section that I grind out. I forgot to do it before I painted, but other than that, everything under here looks really good. So after I grind those out and paint those, I can get the trans front mount in there, and then start putting suspension back together. That way, all of that stuff's set up. I'll put in the Stiffy bar, get that all set up and where it needs to be. And still need to figure out brake lines. I don't know if I'm doing the brake system for him or not. I'll have to talk to him about it and figure it out. But everything under here is painted. And then we'll get all this stuff bolted back up and then do the actual engine bay. And then we'll get the transmission painted and put back together. And then we'll plop the whole thing back in. Well, when I was taking apart the suspension, I noticed that suspension was under tension. And this one was free floating. So I think the car was too low in the rear, judging from the way that it was set up. Between the bump stop and the control arm, there wasn't a ton of room. So with the weight of the motor and everything like that, it would be bouncing and it would probably end up smacking the bump stop. Well, there's no bump stops on either side of this. So it would be metal on metal contact, would not be very good. So I'm going to put a tiny bit of tension onto the spring plate. The other spring plate on the driver's side was actually off one notch on the inner spline. So they were both different at different angles. So I went ahead and changed that spline over. Now they are equal. I'm going to put, like I said, a tiny bit of tension on it so you can see right there that it is down below the actual spring perch on there. So I have this tool here that allows me to get a little bit of tension on the spring plate. So I'll go ahead and pull that up, get these set. If it doesn't end up working, I can just unbolt these these 4 bolts here, slide this out just a tiny bit past the spline, and either drop it down or raise it up if I need to after the fact. But I feel like a little bit of tension on these will definitely help the car. So if it's wrong, then we'll adjust later. But for now, I'm gonna just put 1 notch of tension into it just to help the suspension out. So we'll go ahead and get these all bolted up and start getting the rest of the suspension back in. Okay, well, installing the Stiffy bar and some of the suspension and stuff, I'm not one to trash talk stuff or people or anything like that, but this Stiffy bar is probably one of the worst car parts I've ever installed. It really sucks too because it's really nice and it's a really good design and all of that, but just nothing lines up very well. All of these joints that come into here, they work, but it definitely needs solutions. So it really sucks. I'm obviously going to work with this and do all of that, but I have different ideas in my brain that I could do stuff differently. Maybe I'll make my own kit in the future, but we'll figure this one out for the time being. This does work. It's just a little bit different. So what I'm going to do is I'm probably going to ditch these tabs here that bolt into the frame rails, and what I'll end up doing is probably making my own tabs that bolt into the actual motor mount / trans mount, just because these angles, no matter what I do, don't line up. So I'll end up probably making my own tabs to bolt to the engine mount, and we'll get to that. We'll kind of put this thing together and see exactly where everything's going to want to land, and see how it all fits together. But I'm really upset that this isn't as easy as it looks like it should be, but we'll figure this out, get it worked out, and then yeah, maybe I'll design my own kind of kit in the future, and we'll see how it goes. Alright guys, so that's all I have for you this week. Been very, very busy on both cars, on work. The entire family got sick last couple days, so we're all starting to feel better and everything, so should be able to hop back into the garage a little bit more, get everything situated on both these cars, and start making a lot more content for you guys. I'm trying to situate things a little bit better. That way the videos can get better, as well as the progress on the cars. Content, I'm trying to get to be at that better position where you guys are more excited to see it. If you guys do like the content, feel free to share it with all of your friends. It definitely will help me grow my channel. I'm trying to get to a point where I can start doing tutorial videos and just kind of that kind of stuff, to where I can share my knowledge with you guys a little bit better here in the future. So things are going to start picking up, promise you that. Things are going to start really getting good. So until the next video, we'll see you guys on the next one. Peace out, guys.